Power Hour with John Lee.
Nicknamed the greatest, possibly the greatest, Muhammad Ali. Cassius Clay was his name, his given name. Changed it to Muhammad Ali. We'll start with his record. Let's look at this. 61 fights, 56 wins, 37 KOs. Very good. It's Muhammad Ali, you know. But that's his record as it reads. Olympic gold medalist. Again, born dirt poor. Gets into boxing for the same reasons as all the rest. It's some way to make money and get out. And he did. And he went to the Olympics and he won the gold medal. Olympic gold medalist. Trained at the Fifth Street Gym in Miami, which was old school and brutal. He came through that. And then but he was a man with ideas. He was very intelligent, and the establishment didn't like this. He wasn't like Joe Louis, the opposite of Joe Louis. He in fact called Joe Louis an Uncle Tom, which between black men is a very, very strong insult or accusation. And so Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay at the time, becomes friends with Malcolm X, who's the most famous or visible figure in the Nation of Islam. This was very, very problematic, anti-American, anti-white, troublesome, whatever. And this is leading up to the Sonny Liston fight, and they were actually afraid that, the people around Cassius Clay were afraid that if people found out that he was a member of the Nation of Islam, he wouldn't be allowed to fight for the title. So they kept it quiet, and he fought Sonny Liston, and everyone thought Sonny Liston was going to kill him because he was a beast, he was a bully, he was a monster. But he was not in the same league as Cassius Clay, and Cassius Clay destroyed him, smashed him up. Even though he put something on his gloves and rubbed it in Cassius Clay's eyes so he couldn't see for a few rounds. When his vision cleared up, he just absolutely smacked Sonny Liston up, to the point where Sonny Liston wouldn't get off his stool to continue the fight. And he became the world champion, banged him again. A lot of people think that was a fix, I'm not sure. He did seem to go down easy. And then he changes his name. He becomes Muhammad Ali. He says, I'm a Muslim. Cassius Clay was my slave name. And now I'm called Muhammad Ali, and I would like you to address me as such. Goes to Africa, finds his roots, has a real transformation in himself. Now he's politically and socially active and very intelligent. So he's not just a boxer. And then I think as a reaction to this, they tried to send him to the Vietnam War. And he said, no, you won't even look after me in my own country. And now you want to send me, a black man, to the other side of the world to kill poor brown people who've never done anything to me or even attacked this country. That could not be tolerated. So they took his title off him. They took the belts off him, banned him from boxing for 3 years, robbed the world of the 3 best years of possibly the greatest of all time. Technically, certainly Muhammad Ali, and a hard bastard. People forget how hard Muhammad Ali was.
Who knocks out everybody and no one can whoop him. That's when that little Cassius Clay from Louisville, Kentucky came up and stopped Sonny Liston, the man who annihilated Floyd Patterson twice. He was going to kill me. I'm going to float like a butterfly and sing like a bee. His hands can't hit what his eyes can't see. I'm experienced in that profession. Knocked down a couple times. Bad. Been chopping trees. I done something new for this fight. I done wrestled with an alligator. That's right. I have wrestled with an alligator. I done tussled with a whale. I done handcuffed lightning, throw thunder in jail. That's bad. Only last week, I murdered a rock, injured a stone, hospitalized a brick. I'm so mean, I make medicine sick. Man, dude. Bad. Fast.
It was. And it was shown in the Foreman fight. One of the great fights of all time, Rumble in the Jungle. And he absolutely battered George Foreman. And George Foreman I'll talk about more later, but that was a major upset. He was getting on. He's good 33 years old at this time, Muhammad Ali. No one gave him a chance. And when you hear people who don't know about boxing talk about that fight, they'll say, oh yeah, he just punched him once in the 8th round after getting bullied. He didn't. He schooled him in every round. He was tormenting him and taunting him. Come on, George. Is that all you got? He was tiring him out and licking him up at the end of every round. And then he had plenty in the tank when he knocked him out, when he knocked George Foreman out. And George Foreman didn't. He couldn't get up. He beat him. And that made him then, I mean, he had a couple of tragic fights after that. The Larry Holmes one will make you cry because he already had Parkinson's by then. And then he retired and became an icon. Great, leave it at that. I mean, he did carry on fighting too long. And the referee that allowed the Larry Holmes fight to continue should have been shot. That was disgraceful. So then we go, for me, right past the 80s. You know, that happened in 1981. Larry Holmes dominated the 80s. There was the Spinks brothers. There was, you know, there were some good fighters. Tim Witherspoon was a good fighter. Frank Bruno wasn't bad. James Bone Crusher Smith was all right. The Spinks, as I say, Michael Spinks and Leon Spinks. But really, Jerry Cooney, it was all a bit dull. There was nobody box office there. There's no pow to that at all. So in comes Mike Tyson, Iron Mike Tyson, black shorts, black trainers, ready to rock, and just smashed the hell out of everybody and scared everybody. And he changed the game because he made it box office. He was bankable, very, very bankable, and he delivered every time. Just did the same thing every time. Just brilliant ferocity. He had 58 fights, 50 wins, 44 by knockout. Not bad at all. He had a few losses, but they came later on. So again, he comes from nothing. He comes from Brownsville, Brooklyn, rough, one of the roughest places in the world at that time. He ends up in a reform school by the time he's 13, gets into boxing a little bit, gets seen, gets taken to live with boxing promoter and trainer, more trainer than promoter, Customata. And he's living with them, and he gets his discipline from that. And then Customata dies, doesn't get to see the Berbick fight, the Trevor Berbick fight, where Mike Tyson becomes the youngest ever heavyweight champion at 20 years old by damaging the big Trevor Berbick. Then it all goes tits up for Mike. He marries the wrong woman. Robin Givens was not a good woman. And he gets into the orbit of a very bad man, and that was Don King. So between Robin Gibbons and her mother and Don King on the other side, they just minced him up. They ruined his life. They led him down the wrong path. He was very impressionable. He was like a child, really, Mike Tyson. And then he had the Buster Douglas fight. And people forgot, Buster Douglas is a big, hard bastard, and he's a good boxer. Don't take your eye off this kid. And Mike Tyson did, and he got punished, and he got beaten up and knocked out, and that was it, really. So then he's in free fall. He gets convicted of rape. There are multiple sexual assault charges against him. Then he does 3 years in jail for rape. He comes out, he fights Holyfield, loses. Fights Lennox Lewis, loses. Why are Holyfield and Lewis not in this? Well, because they didn't change the game, in my opinion. They were good fighters, but they weren't revolutionary in any way, or, you know, they weren't box office like Mike Tyson was. Not at all. And so, like I say, in 2002, he lost to Lennox Lewis, and really that was the end of Mike, you know. And I think he was happy about it. The following year, he went bankrupt. So, you know, there was a period of time where Mike Tyson was a figure of pity. People thought he was insane, and he probably was. But in 2020, he's doing all right. He's just fought Roy Jones Jr. He looks good. So fair play to Mike for coming back, although really he has done some bad things in his life. So we're